G'day Adventure Pilots, it's Requiem. Today's video we're going to have a look at the Hurricane Mk.II. So we'll start off on the left side of the cockpit. At the back there is your voltmeter, and just moving forward to the left here, it's going to be your control switch and tuning unit for the radio, and your cockpit lighting, and a radio contactor master switch and the generator switch. And this one opens and closes the canopy, and there's your landing gear control. Now the green handle on the bottom, that's your radiator flap control lever, and you have the position indicator in front of that, and this moves in increments. There's a throttle friction adjuster, and there's your pitch trim with the indicator next to it, and then just below that is the rudder trim. Now just above the rudder trim is the pipsqueak. We've talked about this previously, so you can pause the video if you want to read this. The fuel cock control. There's the throttle, and then above the throttle, if I can get in position, this is your RPM control. You can see, there's a decrease and the increase telling you which way it's going, and there's also a position for 2,600 RPM, which is going to be your approximate cruise RPM. Down below is the supercharger control. There's the landing light. Now looking at the main panel, this is your undercarriage indicator on-off switch, as well as the changeover switch, and there you've got your undercarriage position indicator. There's your oxygen delivery and supply indicators, the clock, boost cutout control, magnetos, the pitot heat, nav lights, and the gun camera. Now the Hurricane uses the RAF Reflector Mk.II sight, with the range of the wingspan being adjustable, and that video will show you how to use that. So having a look at the blind flying panel, here's your airspeed indicator, artificial horizon, vertical speed indicator, the altimeter, directional gyro, turn and slip indicator, and below that is the compass. So looking at the control stick, you've got a single brake lever, and you need to apply this along with rudder to get differential braking. Up in the top right, this is your tachometer. You have the gun sight switch to turn it on and off, boost gauge, fuel contents selector. And you've got your oil pressure gauge in yellow, the fuel gauge with a fuel pressure warning light, oil temperature, radiator temperature, formation lights, and the cylinder priming pump. On the right side, there's your map case. Then underneath, get your undercarriage and flap selector lever, as well as a flap position indicator, which is located underneath. Now if you happen to have bombs or weapons installed, this is going to be the bomb fusing and selector switches to use that. And then above there you've got some fuel conversion and engine placards. So to start the Hurricane, all we need to do is get the radiator shutter to the full open position. So we get that, we put it all the way down to the floor. Get the throttle to 1/2 inch, and we'll put the propeller fully forward. Then once you're ready to start the engine, you can just press E and you'll let the automated sequence take over. So now that the engine is started, you can have a look at the pilot's notes for the Hurricane Mk.II. Alright, so now the engine's started, we can taxi and make our way to the runway. So first thing we do is just gonna, check our surroundings. Then we'll start increasing the power a little bit to get ourselves rolling. And I can do a quick brake check as well as we start moving. Apply the brakes, kind of stop. Now they're working, and you'll find that the brakes in the Hurricane are pretty effective compared to other airplanes. So if you need to make a nice tight turn here, we'll add some power to the left rudder and a bit of brake. That's going to make a nice sharp turn and get us aligned on the taxiway. And so then we'll skip the rest, and then we'll move on to how to take off in the Hurricane. So to take off in the Hurricane, you're going to set the rudder trim to fully right, so basically going to move that all the way until it stops. Elevator trim, we're going to put that in the neutral position. Coolant radiator is going to be fully open, propeller control is going to be full forward, and the flaps, we're going to practice a short takeoff here, so we're going to set it at 28 degrees. And then we're just going to increase to full power, and we'll rotate about 85 miles an hour. Alright, so we're going to apply the brakes in spurts to bring ourselves to a stop. And we're going to go through that before takeoff. So get the rudder trim. Begin rotating that all the way to the right. Pitch trim is in the standard position for neutral. Coolant radiator is open. Our RPM is at maximum. And then over on the right here, we'll extend the flaps out. It's also around 28 degrees. And we're good to go. So we can start increasing the power nice and slowly. The plane's going to want to pull to the left a little bit, so you have a slight touch of right rudder. Now as we accelerate to around 60 miles an hour, the nose is going to lower automatically by itself. So you can let the nose come down. And then once you reach about 85 miles an hour, apply some back pressure and rotate. Get a positive rate of climb, we can bring the landing gear up. We'll continue climbing while the gear is retracting, and once we get the two red lights on the undercarriage indicator, right there, we can now begin retracting the flaps, lowering the nose, and we'll start to accelerate to at least 140 miles per hour. So if you wanted to maintain your best climb speed, that is going to be at 140 miles an hour up to 16,000 feet. So now that everything is cleaned up, we're getting to around 160 miles an hour now, we can close the canopy, and we'll have a look at the landing procedure for the Hurricane Mk.II. So for landing the Hurricane Mk.II on downwind, you'll set your RPM to 2,400. You'll open up the canopy, the coolant radiator will be fully open, and you want to go to slow down to below 120 miles per hour. That way you can extend the landing gear, and as you're approaching the end of downwind, you're going to set the propeller to full, and you're also going to get the flaps out to full as well. And for the base to final turn, if you're using your engine mode approach, you're going to fly it at 95 miles an hour, but if you're pulling the power to idle and you're gliding in, you'll do it at about 100 to 105 miles an hour. So we're established on the left downwind. We've got our RPM set to 2,400, and we're going to start slowing the airplane down. So pull the throttle back, and we're going to get that warning horn, which is normal because you're below 1/3 throttle. We've got the canopy open now. Our coolant radiator is fully open, and so we're trying to slow down to below 120 miles per hour. It lets us extend the landing gear safely. We can do that, and then once we get the two green lights telling us that the landing gear is down and locked, should be approaching the end of downwind. So at that point we can start extending the flaps all the way out to full, and we'll begin this base to final turn. And I am at idle power, so I'm going to be trying maintaining about 100 to 105 miles per hour in this base to final turn. Now you may have used some nose up trim to keep yourself level on downwind, so here you may have to add some nose down trim in order to help you maintain that airspeed you want during this turn. So just like the other flights I've shown, I'm visualizing my aiming point being at the beginning of the runway. So I'm trying to judge my descent rate, and I'm adjusting my turn accordingly so I can arrive at the beginning of the runway just with enough altitude left so I can pull off a flare. As I'm coming around, I'm going to get myself aligned on the center line, get the wings level, hold the airplane up into the flare, and touch down, hold full back pressure, start applying the brakes in bursts because you don't want to risk tipping the nose over and making a prop strike. Keep keep using that burst of brake. We'll get down to a safe taxi speed, and then you can retract the flaps and continue on your way to shutdown. So that'll complete this tutorial on how to fly the Hurricane Mk.II. If you enjoyed it, be sure to use the like button or a comment if you have any feedback, and you can be a subscriber as well, and that way you can see these new videos as they're released. And until next time, remember to fly safe and always check your six.